All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening at our Ferry Road public engagement session. This is a neighborhood meeting where we'd like to share with you the latest that's going on with the Ferry Road project. I appreciate you taking your time to come join us this evening. We've got folks in the room, but also want to let you know that we've got folks that are potentially dialing in online. We're also recording this session. That way y'all can watch it later if you'd like to, or if you want to share it with somebody that wasn't able to make it today. That's the purpose of the meeting. Just a matter of logistics. We've got some water here. Recording is in progress. If you haven't signed in, please do so. We'd like to share that. Make sure that we're documenting who's here. Additionally, we've got restrooms kind of off to the right as well as in the back if you need those. But if at any point you have any questions, come on in. Nice to see you. How are you? So we're going to do some quick introductions. My name is Tim Love. I work for Buncombe County Government. I've been sort of project managing this Ferry Road project, and so some of you are familiar with me. I'm also joined by my partner in crime, Sarah Odio. Sarah's here, and Sarah will be talking to you a lot about sort of the details of the project today. Sarah works at the UNC School of Government Development and Finance Institute, and so they've been helping us think through how to make this project work from a financial, but also from a community perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start working through the slides. If you have questions as we go, please feel free to let me know. Also want to thank Commissioner Terry Wells for joining us today. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate your attendance. All right. Usually when the clicker stops working when I try to start using it. Here we go. All right, so our agenda today, y'all, we're going to talk through the project overview. We'll go through the details of the proposed master plan, and then we'll talk about next steps. For those of y'all that have participated in the session with us in the past, a lot of the information you're going to see today is pretty similar, almost, I'm going to go ahead and say identical to what you've seen in the past. So it should be repeat. For those that are new to us today, feel free to ask questions as we go. Just want to make sure you understand what we're doing. In terms of the history of the project, some of you are familiar with the site. Some of you live adjacent to it, so I know that you are. The property was acquired by Buncombe County in 2015, and at that time was slated for an economic development project that did not proceed. The county then held that property for a number of years. It was slated for an additional development that was primarily residential. That project never went forward. And then at a certain point, our county commissioners looked at the property and saw an opportunity to use county-owned property to do good things in our community that align with the goals of the strategic plan and ultimately the commissioner's vision. And those things, just examples, which we're going to get into today, concepts around conservation were extremely important, affordable housing, extremely important, public recreation, extremely important. And so as we walk through the development site plan today, you're going to begin to see how those elements have been weaved into the project. And one thing I want to make abundantly clear, early when we were talking about this project, folks kept asking us, well, what's in it for the county? And it's the three things I just said. There's really no purpose for the county to move forward with this project if we're not creating, conserved spaces or public recreation or affordable housing. That's really the driving point of this project. And so you'll see that today, but I want you to take it to heart that that's why we're here. Over the course of the past 3 years, we've had a very public process. I've met with many of y'all in the past to show you variations on the plan. We started with 5 plans and now we've narrowed it to 1. The commissioners in 2022 approved some guiding principles around this property. And so we've been adhering to those in this latest stage of development. So as we look at the property, there's key community features that we want to talk about, and these are critical to the purpose of the project. And so right off the top, the first bullet you're going to see, this is a 140-acre parcel. It's actually 137. Our commitment right out of the gate is to conserve 72 acres of the property, which equates to about 60% of the site. Some of that, candidly, steep slopes, water courses, things like that. But I can tell you that we've committed to conserving more than most would. Previous iterations of this plan did not take this view and viewed much of the conservation lands that we're looking at as developable. We've not done that. Additionally, we enlisted a firm called Equinox, who led with a conservation study on the front end of this project, where we identified critical conservation zones, primary conservation zones, secondary conservation zones. We effectively drew a line around those zones and said that we can't encroach upon those. When I say encroach, I mean no grading, no retaining walls, literally leaving it untouched. So that was our commitment at the beginning. It remains our commitment now. You'll see that as we proceed. What that means for waterways and buffers, I'm not going to read this to you, but we're protecting the tributaries. We know that the water courses on this site lead into the French Broad River. Any runoff, any stormwater, any sediment ultimately ends up in the river, and that's a challenge for us. So we've committed ourselves to staying out of those to the extent possible. At this point, we're only crossing one of those waterways on the site. There may be the potential to cross a second, but we'll proceed and as we go. Additionally, there's a floodplain, a wetland on the property. We're going to preserve that, make sure that it's protected. From a parks perspective, you'll see there's a plan for a community green, a place where people can gather. Also, pocket parks scattered throughout the residential development so that folks can have access to those. From a public recreation standpoint, there's a plan to build a 2-mile greenway that would connect down the tail of the property and ultimately get down to Bent Creek River Park, which is a Buncombe County park. That's one of our most used parks that I know you're familiar with. Additionally, on the site, there's a plan for trails, and these wouldn't be paved trails. These are sort of more walking trails that you would see through a conservation zone. In total, 4 miles of publicly accessible recreation amenities. Additionally, we built in trailheads for these trails that have parking. That way, we're not seeing folks, sort of bunched up on the street trying to get to a trailhead. So we've been trying to think about the impacts in the community. Additionally, and critically important, our goal here is to build, a community. We're not just trying to put in place a development. And so a key piece of that was the development of what we're calling a community service location. And so this is 22,000 square feet approximately that is slated for potential neighborhood uses such as childcare, a healthcare clinic, something of that nature. We don't know exactly what's going to be in that space at this time, but we wanted to program something now. That way it doesn't get forgotten about, and then we don't have a place for it in the future. We're not envisioning that this is a location that's going to be traditional commercial. I don't see that there's going to be a retail establishment up here selling, hamburgers or hot dogs or anything of that nature. Candidly, the market, we don't think would handle it, but also it's not what we're really looking for from a more comprehensive community. My final note, and probably the most important one, is this concept that we're talking about, which is equitable development. And so what we're going to show you today is a plan to build 650 units, many of which are going to be affordable at different price points. There's home ownership opportunities baked into that at different price points as well. But the key point to this is the idea that the folks that live in this housing have an opportunity to access public recreation, conserved lands, public walking trails, parks in their neighborhood. This is something that we don't see in developments for most folks. It's the type of thing you would expect to see in a luxury development that many folks may not be able to afford, and we didn't view that as a value to represent. So today we're going to talk about equitable development and how this project sort of delivers upon that mission. So those are the key features we're going to talk about. Sarah is going to walk us through a lot of the details on how we deliver this, what the timeline is. But I just wanted you to know kind of the bottom line up front, like when we say what's in it for the county, this is what's in it for the county. An opportunity to do something different, something better, that checks a lot of our community goals. So with that said, I'm going to introduce Sarah, ask her to come up.
Thank you. So just before I get into it and get into the details of this plan, It's helpful to know who we are and why we're here helping the county. So we are with the UNC Chapel Hill School of Government. If you are familiar with the school, it's probably because you work in local government or affiliated in some way. Basically, the school is an incredible institution focused on helping local governments do what they do to help their citizens to the best of their ability. What that means is that we have experts in just about everything that local governments have to touch. So from animal control, we train clerk of courts. There's basically an expert, an attorney, or some other technical expert in every field. We are with the development finance and our focus within the school is on real estate development and finance. So local governments that own a property or want to own a property in order to develop their community in a way that they have control over will bring us in to help drive development in the way they want to see it done, right? So they come to us, and in this case, they came to us and they said, hey, we have this property. We want to see it developed in a way that is going to meet our vision and the community's vision for this site. But we want to make sure that we can actually get this done through a public-private partnership. And so we come in and we help them structure it in a way that they can attract private investment to deliver on the public vision for this site. Now, it's really important to know that we are neutral, nonpartisan, responsive partners. So we come in, our clients tell us, this is our vision, speak to the community, come back to us, tell us what it is that they want to see, and bring us some feasible development plans. And for a project to be feasible, it has to do a few things. First, it has to meet the market demand, right? We cannot build something that there is no demand for. The private sector will not do it. It also has to fit what is possible within a site, right? There are natural constraints to a site, but there are also regulatory constraints to a site. What can you actually do within the larger comprehensive plan for a community? And then the financial analysis, which is what are the funding sources that a private partner can bring to the table, and what, if any, public investment is needed in order to do the most important part of this, which is to meet the public interests. So there's going to be banks at the table, there are going to be investors at the table. What will they deliver, and what role will the local government need to play to do all the things that we know that the county wants to achieve on this site in particular? So these public interests came out of, as Tim talked about, those first rounds of engagement with you all, with the community at large. The goals here are that development on the site should create a diverse, mixed income, multi-generational community. It should be a model for sustainability and stewardship, be a hub for recreational opportunities, provide equitable transportation access, include commercial or service-oriented uses, and that's where that market came in and told us not commercial, but definitely service. Increase a well-paid living wage workforce was something that was heard early on, and optimize public investments and attract private investment. Now, we moved forward, we looked at various scenarios. We look at scenarios that include an industrial use on this site and move forward with these public interests. There are always trade-offs though, right? So here is the plan in more detail. The main access road is going to be off Brevard Road. Okay, so it will be coming in through Brevard Road, and there will be a secondary access off of Ferry Road. But the most or the primary traffic will be coming in from Brevard Road. When you drive into the site, the first thing that you will hit is a community green. I should have been there of that, but I'll show you that as well. You'll hit that community green, and at the center and the core of this community is going to be that 22,000 roughly square foot building that will have hopefully childcare, healthcare options as well. If you make a left into the site, there will be apartments. These are apartments that are going to be 3 stories high. There are about 270 units in this plan program on that site in a diversity of buildings. If you keep driving, you make a right, you go to the northern part of the site. There are an additional 260 multifamily apartments there as well. From the community green, you could also head right and drive down the ridges. And this is where we start to see the housing types transition. You're going to have townhomes, cottage courts, moving into a more traditional single family home as you make your way down that ridge. And there are about 115 units on these two ridges combined. Now, how we are looking at this, remember that top line was that mixed income community, right? And so what you will see within that lower density, medium density townhome type are going to be sale values that range from 115,000 at that most affordable one bedroom home ownership opportunity to 400 plus. So there will be a mix of both restricted and unrestricted homes. The restricted, we will ensure that these are affordable at that point. The unrestricted is where will the market go? So somebody may want to buy this house for 600,000. They will have the option to buy it for whatever the market will say. On the higher density side, this is where we're going to have more of those rental units in the apartment. And there we're going to see rents that range from $375 in the restricted units all the way up again to those unrestricted apartments where the market will take it. And you might have 3 bedrooms at $2,500 or more on this. So we are very much achieving a mix across this community. Now, I'm talking about affordability. I talk about mixed income. Who will this community serve? Now, when I say housing is affordable, I am talking about those restricted units that are reserved for low and moderate income households. You have on your sheet a lot more detail around this. You can see an entire chart around household size and area median income, which is our measure for this. So the area median income is determined at the county level. It's set down from the federal government. And what matters though is who falls into these categories, right? So under 60% of the area median income, a household is considered low income. In Buncombe County, if you're a single household, that means you potentially work in food prep, including fast food. These are personal care aides, people that are helping elderly, or people that need help in the community. This includes our child care workers. So low income households, a single household earning $24,000 a year is considered low income. The development with the restricted units will go up to moderate income, which is 80% of the area's median income. And at that level, we have households that are potentially working as medical assistants, earning $31,000 a year. Social service specialists, so these are the people that are helping low-income people that qualify for low and moderate income households. Up to our elementary school teachers who are on the cusp of that moderate income and would qualify for affordable housing in this community. Now, this is a single household. If any one of these people have a child, for example, they're now a 2-person household, and they're considered even lower income. So how do we break that down within this community? The apartments will primarily be rental units. There are going to be about 55 units that are affordable to extremely low income households. Those earning, you can see that on your list what that limit is. There are going to be about 160 reserved for that 50 to 60. So those child care workers, those personal aid assistants. There are going to be about 55 reserved for your teachers, your social service specialists. At that market level, these are the units that are unrestricted. Anybody can live in them. low income, moderate income, high income, whoever wants to and can afford to live there and chooses to live there, they're going to be about 260 market rate apartments. On the home ownership side, which will be these sort of medium density to lower density types, there are about 115. 50 of these will be reserved for low income households, that 60% AMI, that child care worker, right? That middle income level, that's actually higher than your teacher, right? That's going to be exceeding the income level of a teacher. Market rate, anybody who wants to buy that house can buy that house. So co-located with this affordable housing that's going to serve various income levels, we have those 72 acres of conserved land. There will be access across the site for both the affordable apartments, the market rate apartments, the affordable homes, the market rate homes. There will be direct access to this conserved land and to roughly 2 miles of greenways that will connect down to that Bend Creek trail system. And at the center of it all, I already talked about this, but it's that 22,000 square foot space that is meant to serve everybody in this community. It's meant to serve market rate, people earning whatever they're earning that need childcare, to low, extremely low income households. Now, what is it going to take to make this work from a financial point of view? The total public-private investment to make this project work is roughly $210 million. So public and private dollars combined. The net cost to the county, because they're going to sell portions and they're going to put money in here and there, it's going to be roughly $34 million. That is about 16% of the total cost of this project. And for that 16% of the total cost of this project, they are achieving 54% affordability, 72 acres of conserved land, 2 miles of greenway. This includes all of those benefits and features that Tim talked about better than I could have. So this is the timeline that we're looking at to move forward. If the board is ready to proceed in the beginning of 2024, if we've got zoning in place or at the right place where we're ready to keep moving, the county would go out and try to find a development partner or master development partner that they trust, that has experience doing this kind of development, and that is the right fit for Buncombe County, right? The county does not need to proceed if it doesn't find a partner that it wants to work with. From there, there's going to be a long period of negotiations. It's long because it's there to protect the county. The county needs to make sure that whoever it enters into an agreement with to develop this is going to uphold their side of the deal, right? And so there will be a long period to ensure that there are agreements in place that secure those public interests that we have talked about through this process, right? From there, that private developer will begin their work. And you should probably expect a minimum of 2 years before any dirt actually starts moving in any direction on this site. It's going to be at least 3 years before we see units, physical units, start to come out of the ground. So next up, there is going to be some additional community engagement opportunities. There will be a virtual meeting this Saturday morning. And then there will be another public meeting in downtown on Thursday, November 9th. I would like you all to keep in mind that there will be a planning and zoning process, and there will be opportunities for engagement around that as well. When that will be is to be determined at this point. We don't know, but we are beginning the process of moving this site through a rezoning. So there will be important opportunities for neighbors to come out again and voice their interests in this. For all of the information about what's coming, what's next, there is that public input page, publicinput.com/Ferry Road. So they will keep you up to date. Please subscribe if you haven't already to make sure that you're notified of any upcoming opportunities, any changes, any additional information that we're releasing. Question? Yes.
You said that this is 22,000 square feet of community services.
Yes.
Where within that building is there a community gathering area?
So we haven't programmed a community gathering area within that building because it depends on who the partner is that comes in and their ability to manage a space of that kind. The idea is that there are community greens, pocket parks, a lot of public spaces built into the plan. So you can see here. He's more kind of let up and let it sit, right? Big one. Okay. So there are opportunities throughout the site, parks, screens, and you might have a partner that we know for sure within the affordable apartments, within the market rate apartments, there will be community spaces integrated into the ground floor. But for community wide, it's going to be more of those green spaces that are the convenient.
Well, I'm just thinking of simple gatherings, birthday parties, memorial services for people. There's going to be a lot of people here. These live things happen. They want a place to gather. Want to build a community, which I understand you want to involve the rest of us as a community. I just think there ought to be a gathering place within this, and we're talking about, it's all in the sky at this moment. The ability to have a gathering place for the community that you're building.
That's a good point. Thank you.
That's a great suggestion. We're going to take some notes on it, and we'll note that as an item. I think with 22,000 square feet, there's going to be some capacity to look at that. And the key for us is making sure that we have space that we can rely upon, or just focus on. Thank you.
On the roads going in and out. I know the plan for the housing, they're gonna set, roads going in, or how it's gonna go, okay, so that's gonna be, I'm gonna get half-mile drive in, every bit of it. You've got 115 units. Yeah, you're looking at about 1,300 cars minimum that are gonna be in this place, in and out every day, once it's fully full. Right now, the way that looks, you got a half mile in on the Winding Road. You come up Ferry Road, you're only talking 40 miles, so why anybody? You want to go a half mile versus a quarter mile, especially to the back apartments. You're talking 1,000 cars that are fixing to drive up Ferry Road every day because back the easy access every apartment in. They're not going to hit the top of the hill. You want to drive another quarter mile or less to hit Ferry. So.
Chad, and so what I'd like to talk about from the traffic component is a few things that we're doing. First off, we're kicking off a traffic impact assessment study, the TIA. And so that'll happen over the course of the next couple of months. And the purpose of that study is to really analyze those traffic patterns, like you said. And so I'll be contracting that out. It's typical to see it later in the development process, but we're sort of expediting it and bringing it to the front of the process because we think it's important. So that's step one. The TIA will happen. Additionally, our plans include the development of this new access road, which you described, Chad. I appreciate that. Additionally, we're looking at improvements to the existing infrastructure on Dry Ferry and Ferry Road, which we think will make that road more navigable, period. Yeah. So we're looking at both. I understand your point. Why would you go a half mile versus a quarter mile? I get it. That's part of the reason why we're going to do the TIA, the traffic study, to see what those patterns are so we understand what the improvements really are. The additional item I would add for Bard Road, the new access road, we envision this being signalized. And so we think that will.
And going out, yes, 100%. Coming home, no. Coming in, you're going to hit the easiest spot, especially if you're going to the apartments. Going out, hit a traffic light.
I think you're making a great point. And I don't have the answer, candidly. What I will tell you though is that, and y'all know it because you live there. pulling up on a signal on Brevard Road is gonna be a lot easier than trying to take that left or that right.
Yeah.
On to Dry Ferry, which is currently kind of
Now,
done with. So,
the new road you're bringing in is coming down MSD's road there at the very bottom. And they explored the opportunity or the option of coming down MSD's road there and tying it in along the bottom of your property, literally where the 276.
We've studied it and we won't follow MSD's road completely. We will cross it.
No, I'm saying coming off of Ferry Road, down MSD's right there at the bottom of y'all's property and tie it in as another entrance, because you're already coming in right there anyways. Would that not be a more cost feasible and easier access than trying to fix all the rest of Ferry Road?
You're asking a question about cost, and I appreciate that. That seems like a pinch point to me from a traffic perspective. We can take a look at it. I'm glad to take the note. We'll take a look at it for sure. I appreciate the thoughts.
I mean, even if it's just another entrance, like you have less than 8 mile probably from Ferry Road to where your new road is gonna tie into the development. Would it not be easier for traffic, easier for everybody to add that in right there on y'all's property where MSD already has a road?
I think it's a great question. We'll take the note, and like I said, the TIA is kind of our next study point on this, and we'll see what that returns.
You said rezone,
Yes.
you're gonna rezone all of this, what guarantees do we have you don't rezone?
Well,
The neighbor's properties.
sure. Well, I mean, the rezoning, I'm not gonna get into it. I might draw Matt Card. Matt, come on up.
Yeah, I'm Matt Card, I work with
Building and everything around it.
and it's a conditional zoning, so basically development approval. It's not necessarily, I mean, it's a rezoning, because the underlying zoning is changing to conditional zoning, but it's just for that parcel, it's just for development. It's a big approval for that.
A note that Sarah made as well, this property is in the city of Asheville. All of the adjacent properties are not. So it's, we're kind of apples and oranges at this point, so.
That's what I'm saying, what guarantees we have, we don't get zoned in the city.
That's just not what happens. I mean, it's not part of a rezoning study or any kind of rezoning process. It's just basically going to the city and saying, hey, we want this development approved. Well, okay, it's not currently, zoned for that. So we'll do a conditional zoning for this parcel, for this property, for that plan, and then that's it. That's all the city does. I mean, yeah.
Thank you.
Where's the protecting the lower income housing for those that are purchasing a home? How do you stop the investors?
That's a great question. One of the things that,
Real quick, can we repeat that for the audience, because I think it's a critical question. And so the question from the back was, how do we ensure that home ownership as well as rental affordable housing units remain affordable over time? Is that the question? Great.
and I love that question because that was top of mind for us. And the goal will be to put the properties, the homes that are going to be affordable, the land itself into what's called a community land trust model. And what that means is that that land and the home are separated. And the land trust, whose entire goal is to keep land affordable in perpetuity, will lease the land itself to the homeowner. The homeowner will own the house. This will be their property. They'll have a 99-year ground lease on that land. They get to sell their house when they're ready to sell. They'll realize, the appreciation on this value, on this home. But whoever they sell to next will also need to be a low, moderate income household.
So it's like it's deeded in.
It's deeded, basically, the land is owned by a separate entity who controls, ultimately can buy that house and what their income levels have to be.
And that's only on low income,
And that's only on the low income.
and the low income is right now just the apartments, correct?
It's the apartments, and then there are 50 homes scattered. The goal is scattered throughout the
5%,
city
8 months.
that are 50 to 60%.
So that's saying if that person buys their house for $350,000, they live in it for 10 years, they got to sell it again at roughly $350,000.
No, it gets to appreciate in value. There are different models. So I could get into it. They're kind of different shared equity models. but ultimately they will own the house. They sell the house based on the agreement. They will get, say the house sells for 400,000, they bought it for, that's not even that high. They buy the house for 200,000. In 10 years' time, they want to sell it for 300,000. They will get back the 300,000, they pay off their mortgage, whatever it is, and they'll get a portion of the appreciated value.
But they cannot ask out of the AMI.
They
It has to
cannot,
stay in the range for whatever year they sell it,
yes.
so.
So it's somewhere in between.
Don't buy somebody's up real fast. Because if it goes down and you take that, or if
No, they're protected. So part of the model is ensuring, this is all about, so the model and whatever the details of it become are all about creating wealth for low and moderate income households. So they're designed to do that. And so there are protections in place for those low and moderate income households when they buy into it. Yeah. So that's the entire intent.
What's the plan for public transportation?
So there is, the city of Asheville has a bus line that ends at Brevard Road, just, you know where it is. Sort of near the outlet mall, and so we've had initial conversations with the city. There's no commitments on extending that line. I think you know as well as I do, there's a lot of growth in that direction, and so maybe over time that will occur. But at this time, there's no plan. But I'm sure as this project and others proceed, that may come to fruition.
I don't know what drivers for buses they got.
When you do your TIA, put a note that you need to come on the snowiest day and look at all the cars that are piled up in that curve right there at MSD's gate.
You say on the left script for Hill this year?
It's the only time that the traffic gets through there is when our good neighbors bring their equipment out and scrape the road. Otherwise,
It doesn't get done.
it doesn't get done and the road just simply gets blocked. No one gets in and out.
Understood. Thank you.
And with 650 people.
Minimum. And that ours will be the easier access because you go in the bottomlands on the new road and it is swamped and you'll strap back up. So you know that's gonna be steep. I don't care how you want it. It's gonna be steep.
Thank you.
So is the entire 137 acres in a land trust?
No. It will be,
So the affordable units that are purchased, those 50 affordable units that are purchased are in a land trust, but they're peppered within this area. So you don't own your footprint, but the person next to you may own their footprint.
yes,
Okay, and is that what, so let's say that I'm not in the land trust, then I would own my footprint only, and all of the other lands are held in conservation by the city of Asheville?
So just if I could chime in a little bit. So I think today we're presenting you like potential models for how we ensure affordability as well as conservation. And so what I don't want us to do is get too caught up on the details of a land trust model and what that means. Know that it is a model that we can use. In terms of the conservation, a model that we could potentially use is ownership of the conserved space, so everything in green by the county. Who
The
currently
county,
owns,
not the city,
Correct.
it's in the city.
because the county owns the property. And so,
Property, but it's in the city of Asheville.
Correct. Yep.
So would you be paying taxes to the city for your?
that, you know, technically, the county doesn't pay taxes to the city doesn't pay taxes to the county, that's just a separate. But
Those are technicalities on it, but I have a couple other questions if you don't mind, if that's okay. So, with the idea of a, private partnership and looking for that right private partner, and would this be someone who is a general contractor that would then do all of the construction of all of the units, or would there be subcontractors? And if you're people who are not using the affordable housing model, would you be allowed to bring in your own contractor?
So for the overall model, there will be what we call a master development partner, who will come and prepare the entire site. A developer hires a general contractor for the portions of the site. So this might be, it will likely be separate projects that are, funded differently. They might have different general contractors. They'll probably have the same one for efficiency's sake. When it comes to homeownership and the single family, it's like you see with subdivisions when they get built. So one of the models is that they have the land for sale and you'll have that market rate developer, you'll have a homeowner come in, they purchase the land, they have a home builder who will build the house. Usually there is a prescribed list of home builders that are building in that area, and you pick the model that you want for that house, and that home gets built specifically for that homeowner. Sometimes they'll just build and sell, but more often than not, there's going to be a homeowner who comes in, buys the land, works with that builder to get the house they want.
And do you envision them also a homeowners association? And would people who are renters have ownership in that as well as,
Your rental dues. So whoever you're renting from is gonna have to answer the paycheck.
So I was thinking that Lincoln County was going to continue to retain ownership of the rental units.
What you told us the last episode is the rentals will be owned by whatever company, and they lease from Buncombe County for 30 years, I think is what you told us last time.
So a few things to keep in mind. If we look at the parcel, you can kind of see there's kind of this plat, homeownership opportunities. You can kind of see, homeownership, we know who owns homeownership, right? The person that lives there. With our affordable housing component, we could see a model potentially where Buncombe County retains those units, but it's managed by another entity because Buncombe County is not in the property management business. That's not what we want to do.
I would argue that the likelihood is that it's going to be a privately owned and managed buildings. This will be private development, so it's not public housing, which is what would happen if the county owned the land, owned the building. It's not public housing, it's privately owned and managed. There is a scenario in which the county, similar to the way I talked about the houses, the county would keep the land and ground lease the land to the private developer who will own and manage the buildings.
You know the answer to that. When somebody comes in and actually says, hey, I'm gonna develop this is how I'm gonna do it.
That's a decision that the county will make and require of the developers. And the reason why they would do a ground lease for the land, just the land, they wouldn't own the buildings likely, is to ensure that in 40 years' time, the county has some control about what happens with that land then. And it doesn't get turned over to a market rate developer who does who knows what. So they maintain that control in perpetuity or as long as they want to.
Which gets to what we talked about last time, this 30-year sort of lease, but yeah. So part of
Go ahead.
Part of the process that we didn't describe, but it is important. So one of our big next steps. So we're going through this rezoning process through the city. Once we get through that, our plan is to go out to the solicitation process, where we're going to ask developers to give us their plans that align with our plan. And so that's when we'll see a lot of the details that some of y'all are asking, like what the ownership is, things like that. So we'll see more in the near future. We expect to be doing that beginning of next year in spring. And so we'll have more detail with respect to some of those details then. But just wanted you to know that's part of the process. But you have
Have you given any thought to making this piece of property reserve? Wildlife reserve?
So we have not, when we established the goals of the property, conservation was a key, which we've delivered, or we're planning to deliver 60% conservation for that purpose. Public recreation and housing was a key component. And so that has always been a driving force. And again, like we've said it, housing for low to moderate income individuals being a primary goal on this property. So
If the plan is to have a developer come in and manage this, what's to keep them from just saying, we're gonna manage this at fair market value?
Their agreement with the county.
Okay.
Ground lease.
And a ground lease, or in addition to the ground lease, if they do that or they don't do that, there will be a development agreement. So I talked about that with the timeline. There's gonna be a long time that the county is gonna spend negotiating an agreement that is going to say, these are our terms. This is how you can participate in this project. If you do not follow these terms, then you're out. And so there will be strict rules around that.
Are there examples of where a project like this nationwide have been implemented? Were they successful in reaching their goal?
We've seen mixed income communities like this built all across the country. I will say the part that's exceptional about this plan is the co-location with so much conserved area. And I'd say a higher rate of affordability. So often when something like this gets built, it's luxury housing with beautiful views of the French Broad River. And you might see 15% of the units that are accessible to teachers at most. The fact that it's going to be over 50% of diverse incomes, that's exceptional. The fact that it's access to greenways, to conserved acres, that's exceptional. So.
And, you know, part of the reason why Sarah and Marcia are here with us today from the school government is they specialize in these types of projects and in our state. So they understand our rules. And, you know, DFI has worked on 50 of these, 100, I don't know. You tell me. 281. is the-
Place from that.
One of the times is our community has been through, I don't know how many meetings now around this. Every single meeting that we've been in, we've been told that we're going to listen to the community. We're going to listen to the community. Buncombe County spent $70,000 doing surveys and having meetings. And what does the community want? On that survey, they're pinpointing this property and the area less congestion. I mean, it's, and you said that you guys had not even seen that survey. I don't know why the survey was done, if that information was not given to you. How many apartment complexes are there that are not rented right? In Buncombe County, how many apartment units are available? Many. So you should know that.
I mean, I don't know it off the top of my head. Part of the reason why we proceeded with this is that one of the first things that we do is we check the vacancy
Right, that's what I'm asking you.
of units that are fully open. And I think Buncombe had an exceptionally low vacancy rate. Because it is, you do want some vacancy, 10% is healthy, anything below that. And I believe that we were below that 10% mark.
How many units do we have coming that are under construction right now with units to be rented? Because you should know that. And how many single family homes, forever homes, are there available? One county wants these people to stay. But it seems to me that you are again, you are catering to trends. They're going to come in, they're going to rent. But there are people in Buncombe County that would like to stay, but there's not enough single family homes. Either townhomes for a lot of seniors who don't want new ones, or condos for a lot of people that don't want new ones. And those are not available. You had this one opportunity to do a great thing. And to listen to not only just us, but in the survey, other people that weren't just Brevard Road, I mean, not Hill Road and Ferry Road, that were saying the same thing. And it was totally ignored, completely. Because right there, with that 270 and 260 units, says to me, you didn't listen. You didn't pay any attention. You just spent $70,000 to look like you care.
Sure, I appreciate your feedback. I'm not certain about the $70,000 survey.
No, I called them, I can.
I can But I can tell you, and because I do think it's an important point. So as we look at the unit count here, there's no doubt that rental units are a key component of this, which allows us to drive density, which allows us to drive more affordability. There's no doubt about that. But what I don't want to lose in this is that there is a homeownership component, and it's about 20% of the property. And so that is a key component. It may not be sufficient. I don't think this is our last opportunity to try to create.
I don't think it's your last opportunity, but it's a great opportunity to provide forever homes for people to stay.
Understood. Sarah was flipping through the feedback that we've gotten from y'all. And I do also want to say we met with y'all multiple times. We have heard some, we haven't literally done everything you've asked of us, but the key things you did ask of us were to look at the traffic components. And specifically, we've undertaken efforts to look at the new access road, the existing roads, and how to repair Drive Ferry Road and Button Ferry Road. That bridge that's really difficult to turn into, we know about that. We've begun the study of those. We've committed to a TIA on the front end. Additionally, we've looked at buffers in terms of ways to, protect the housing that currently exists in this property. So we have taken opportunities. So I don't want us to say that we haven't heard the community's feedback, because I do think we have. However, in terms of rental housing, there's probably more we'd like to see.
I mean, it's, one of the challenges, engagement and getting feedback is how we get people to come and share, and how, we hear what the actual needs are of the community. And one of the challenges that we always face is that for low and moderate income communities, it's often really hard to come out to neighborhood communities, right? And so we recognize that we're probably kind of undercounting what low and moderate income communities really need right now. And that's why we often look to stakeholder organizations, so the people that are on the ground really working with these communities. And I know that was heard early on, just kind of resounding need for that rental product in addition to homeownership. And so this is tough. I mean, it's really tough because you live next door. And so we recognize that this is more personal for you, as it should be. This is your neighborhood, right? But the county, part of the work that they're doing, and they bring us in for that, is what is the big picture? And what can this site do to meet the needs of the county as a whole and these low and moderate income communities? So that was really trying to find that balance, is why you see some homeownership, some rental on the site. Balance is really tough. We struggle to hit that perfect point. So
Fair question, fair comment.
Yeah.
Do we have other questions or comments? So we can wrap this meeting. We'll be here to answer any questions that you have, if there's something else you think of. In terms of how to stay engaged, we've got a number of meetings that Sarah's already talked about. Starting on Saturday, there will be a virtual meeting to discuss this project, available to many. A public meeting downtown College Street in about 2 weeks. And then as we go through the rezoning process, we'll see additional opportunities there as well. So, any final questions? Appreciate y'all's time. Thank you for coming out, and we'll talk to you soon.
You can be loud.